Welcome, Chris, to Wertvoll Conversations, where we discuss the path to power, success, and perseverance. I'm actually very honored to have you as my first guest because you're the one that inspired me to go ahead and start this podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here, especially after more than 20 years of knowing each other. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about your life? You have two different distinguished careers that one of them was a very academic one and the second one was not planned, when I say.
We normally use that for babies, but in this case, it's the second career, which is like a baby, I suppose. And you're right, it wasn't planned. It was encouraged when I was doing my research in Russia. I'd met a few people who were prominent English teachers. And because in Russia I was also, obviously speaking in English, I was encouraged to do a webinar with a big blogger in English, and one thing led to one thing led to the next, and suddenly I was finding myself starting a channel, an Instagram channel. I had not used Instagram up to that point.
So, Chris, you've achieved incredible success in two very different fields. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how the first career led you to enter the second field?
It's a great question, and one that was unplanned, actually. And I think the link between the two careers are obviously English, because in my academic career, I wrote in English, I'm writing in English, and I'm teaching in English wherever I go. And it just naturally led to a few opportunities where I would use that English language platform then to segue into more of a teacher, trainer, and English teaching platform. What I didn't envision is how successful it would be so quickly. And that took me by surprise. And then managing both careers has been, I think, probably the greatest challenge to date.
That you've managed well, may I say. Chris is very humble. The audience does not know. Please introduce a little bit about yourself. Chris is the author of several books. He has established careers and has had his education at Oxford and Cambridge, which does not happen often. So please tell us first a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I'm Professor Korten, or known Chris. I actually grew up in the US, but as Sarah noted, my dream was to study at Oxford and Cambridge, and fortunately, that transpired. And so I was able to do that. But I have to say that, so I'm a historian by training. I trained and studied history at Oxford and Cambridge, got my PhD, or actually the DPhil, at Oxford. But I have to just talk about the most recent event or happening. It, in fact, took place this morning. I just submitted the proofs to the chapter draft of the Cambridge History of the Papacy, which doesn't mean much to most people, but for me, I was asked to write the 19th century history of the papacy and how Italy was formed. And they asked one person in the world to do that, and I'm very honored to be that
congratulations,
person. Yeah,
that's
thank you.
incredible.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited. So that will be published in 2025. So thank you.
We will put the links in the bio once it's released.
Thank you.
That is incredible. And one thing that distinguishes you as well is you took the leap. You took the leap into the unknown, because from our friendship of 20 years, it was, I've known you for your first career. I've known you from the British Library, researching for your books, lecturing at incredible universities around the world, and inspiring them in different fields, including international relations. And then you did something completely different for you and for me back then, Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, taking the leap is an interesting concept in and of itself. And I think for me personally, it involved about three factors. So the first factor is naivety. I just wasn't aware of all that I was getting into. And I think being naive is actually a good thing sometimes. If you know all the pitfalls and issues, I don't think anyone's going to make a jump. So the first thing was I was a bit naive. Secondly, I was excited about the opportunity to explore a different field that I felt I had something to share. I had a message that I didn't hear out there. So I felt I had a niche. And thirdly, and I think very importantly, I was encouraged. I was encouraged by people I respected who said, whether they really believed it or not, you're good. And I sort of believed it and I went for it.
I mean, if you just look online, if you were to look at Professor Korten's reviews, all the students are touched by what you've taught them. And before, I never thought about it. I thought, okay, everyone takes the English class. That's how it is. There's nothing special about it. But you actually change people's lives. You have people in very secluded areas that have changed their opportunities and increased their wages just because they learned English with you without feeling nervous or ashamed. And that is incredible.
Well, thank you. I have to say I made it one of my endeavors, or sort of one of the goals of the business and Instagram in general, was to touch people of all socioeconomic levels, not just the elite, not just the middle class, but also those in areas that don't have access to proper or quality education. And so that was sort of the social mission of the platform. And I can happily say that we've been able to touch a lot of those people. We offer free, educational programs on the platform that cost absolutely nothing. There's no hook.
Incredible.
So I wanted to give that opportunity. And you're right. I think the chance to teach English in a different way has maybe inspired people. I try to add a bit of humor to it, a personal touch. And I think the history, just to sort of tie the two ends together, I think history has played a really crucial role, because when you're writing history, you're analyzing, you're making connections, you're thinking on a more deeper level than that sentence is grammatically incorrect, that word is misspelled. So if you look at English teachers more generally, they sort of teach on the surface. That's a grammar construction error, that's misspelled. And what I've tried to do is teach on a more layered or more sort of theoretical, not academic, but just more interesting, I think. Tying in, different themes live in the lesson. I think it makes it a lot more interesting for the students.
I believe so. Otherwise, you would not have students all over the world. So, and another topic that is, I think, important for people to know, that's also why I like to have this podcast, to inspire people. When you take the leap in times of uncertainty, what keeps you motivated?
Well, this is a great question, and it's one that I ask a lot of bloggers. I get a lot of people asking me for advice, and I get a lot of business opportunities pitched my way. And one of the things I'm always asking them and myself is, what's my identity? What's the niche? What value are they bringing to the marketplace? And so what sustained me in low times, and I can say I had very low times in March of 2022 when things changed quite suddenly for me, is I just focused on the value I was providing the consumer, and that I had a message that was unique in the marketplace, or at least I felt was somewhat unique. And as long as I continued to hone that message and keep that message alive, I felt that I was going to weather the storms.
That is incredible.
Well, it's work, but I want to talk about one thing that's quite interesting, and I haven't actually mentioned it very often, in a live setting or even to other people. Instagram was a platform where you entertain. People go there and they're attracted. Some of the largest followings are those that entertain, and I, at the core, I'm not the comedian, I'm not the one people are laughing a lot at necessarily. So what I try to always remember is who I am and my identity and what role I play in this whole social media sphere. And that was, I chose to believe, a quality education. I was going to give them quality teaching. And for me, that's sort of a timeless event that will weather these storms, these ebbs and flows. And so as long as I'm providing quality, I might not be the funniest, I'm certainly not the best looking, but I can provide value at every instance. And I think that is what can sustain a business, not just in English, but any business.
That is true. I mean, you just mentioned it. That was one of the reasons I haven't posted much on Instagram, because you always see people being very superficial. You have a quick trend, could be a trendy chocolate that has that goes viral, and then maybe a year later no one will know about it. And life is about real value. How can you help others? How can you inspire others? And that is not by showing how you apply your mascara. I mean, maybe I don't want to judge other people, but you want to help people improve their lives. So if we can do that through Instagram, okay, then I joined it. Then I said, okay, let's do this recording. And you did that. You were the one that added value and does not waste people's time, because time is very, very precious. What would you say to someone who maybe does not have self-confidence in the beginning, but they do know deep down that have quality, that have something that they can share with other people?
That's a great question. So if you don't have self-confidence, you probably need to have excitement. I think you have to have one of those. And one of those, self-confidence or excitement, will get you over that confidence hump, which all of us desperately need. And so I think I just want to talk very briefly, because I think it's an interesting topic, on how you gain confidence. And you know how I gained confidence? I'll just speak personally now. I'm not going to speak for the world of social media. I gained confidence one improvement at a time. So for me, it's been a personal journey. If I could make the recording a little bit better than the previous one, for example, if I would move my arms and hands less. When I first started recording, I was like a jitterbug. So, working, I didn't try to fix everything. I tried to fix one thing at a time. And do you know what? I stopped worrying about how confident I was, and I was focused on, all right, let's improve one finger at a time. And that focus changed it for me. I got less nervous. I wasn't in competition with someone else who had more followers and maybe had a flashier video editor or videos in general. I focused, it was my own journey. Obviously, I took stock of the competition and what they were doing and tried to take advantage of the trends, but I tried not to get into the very dangerous game of comparisons, because ultimately we're not going to win that very often.
Please, listeners, this is a very important point, because I believe many people are struggling right now. They look at others and they compare themselves to them, and it stops them in the process. We had someone as well coming to the office. We had beautiful project, and he said, you know what, years ago I had this idea and I shared it with my friend, and my friend said, I'm not sure. He didn't do it. Instead, wow. He's employed, he has every day the same life, the same routine, and he always regrets it. And then when we mentioned that we have this idea, he said, like, oh, it makes me feel like I want to quit my job right now.
Wow.
So you will always have people who will tell you that maybe you will not succeed. You just need to go for it.
Yeah, which is why, honestly, I have such a great respect for you. Not to turn the tables on this sort of interview, but what you've done. I'm recently to Dubai, and Sarah and I have met along with her, Anea, and I'm so inspired, and I've talked to other people about it. You've inspired me by your activity, by your actions, by your sort of proactive presence in not only the Dubai market, but in your industries in general. And I can tell you that it's been a real spark for me. And you're right, just activity, moving forward, Getting started, I find, is one of the most difficult steps. Unfortunately, your friend or this interviewee didn't take that first step.
Thank you. I feel so honored. Maybe you should listen to it. We will show this podcast to that person that I will not name. Hopefully they get inspired by you to take that leap. And it's true, nothing happens easily. When we met, I was just for myself, studying at the British Library, doing personal research. You did actually academic research for your books, and since then I also had quite a few career changes.
Yeah.
Right, until I then came to move here, and it was all about not thinking too much, just see what is your goal, and one step at a time to get there. And if I wouldn't have your encouragement from you and Ella, even I would have just cancelled today's podcast.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you took that step. And even if nothing, I think something can come up from it, but even if nothing comes from it, I think there's great value in knowing what you don't want to do. Yeah. Because if you don't know what you don't want, there's this niggling thing like, why didn't I try? Which is energy that you're losing. This regret and thinking about the past is depriving you of the energy of moving forward. So I love the fact that you're, as we say, scratching that itch, because then okay, been there, done that. Maybe you see an avenue, maybe you don't, but these new experiences, for all those listening, I think it's worth it. Now, obviously each person has a specific situation, and someone who's really focused and has momentum in their career, I'm not suggesting they sort of take a rabbit trail and try something new at that point. Obviously, we have to use common sense. But if it's in your heart, if it's something you've thought about, if you bought the microphone 2 years ago, maybe it's time to dust it off and get it started. I had that problem. I had a camera that I hadn't used for years, and so I think it's great to go for it. And then you learn a lot in the process, and you can make a decision. Do I want to invest the time or do I not? That is knowledge we need to move forward quickly.
So now that you've taught everywhere around the world, you have a very established two careers, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years physically, and what would you like to do career-wise?
That's a great question, and one that I'm thinking about very actively at the moment. So, having just arrived to Dubai, had a series of meetings, I have to say has sparked a lot of positive energy, a lot of positive interest. And one thing that has struck me, and I've mentioned this to you off camera, was the vitality, the vibrancy that this city holds in terms of movement, activity, the dynamics of getting things done faster than where I normally live. So I can tell you that we've set new goals, even yesterday, to move things quicker, to set up business, and Dubai is an area that I want to use in the future as a business hub. And I want to thank you for actually availing all of the resources, both time and personal resources, to that endeavor. You've been a really great help, and you've been a conduit for really exposing the new person to what all that Dubai has to offer. So thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate it. As one friend to another, it means a lot to me.
I mean, I feel blessed. I can't wait for you to be in Dubai and to settle in Dubai. It will. I cannot predict the future, but just a short amount of time in Dubai can bring about big opportunities, because everyone here is hungry for business, for improvement and innovation. You've got the big conferences all being here. You've got Token 49 being here. You've got as well current. What other conferences do you have here? Okay, cut. No, actually there are quite a few conferences for you. One is for fintech investment, like even if you want to pitch your idea, there's a conference very soon. Wow. I wanted to send you the links. I had a list of 3-4 conferences I was
Wow,
thinking
I
of.
want to talk to you about. Okay, great.
Yeah. So, but right now I don't know the names, but
Okay.
Dubai has a lot to offer.
Yes.
We lived in London before, and the movement and the developments I had within my business cannot be compared
Wow.
to years of London life.
Wow.
Because everyone here comes here for a purpose. They want to change, they want to innovate, and they want to grow fast. So if you're an entrepreneur, I can highly recommend setting up an office here, registering your company, think about the tax advantages that you have, and the amount of entrepreneurs that you can interact with and brainstorm. Because maybe one last point I would like to mention is anyone at home who is thinking of launching their own career, it is very, very important who you surround yourself with. If anyone has a negativity or stagnation in their life, and they're your close friend, they can bring you down too. Maybe it sounds conservative, but it will definitely have an effect on you.
Yes.
So surround yourself with people that are more successful than you, that work harder than you, that are more hungry for self-development than you, because then maybe you get a little bit of that spark and improve
That's
yourself.
Right. That's right. Wow.
That's
So
why
true.
Dubai is a beautiful place. Glad to have you here.
It's been a pleasure, Sarah. Thank you for having me on.
No, thank you for coming.
Yeah.